All right, welcome back to Burt's Basics. Hello. Okay, my name's Peter Burt. I teach at Box Elder High School, coolest school in the world. And today we are going to keep going on the pancreas and the liver. So let's get rid of my face, and hopefully you guys are ready to rock. So here is the goal. There we go. So we need to identify the location of the pancreas. Okay, we need to know what a pancreas islet is. So let's just go ahead and do an islet right now. Islet. Okay. If you think of islet, I like to think of island, okay, or an island. That's what an islet is. So these are pancreatic islands. We're going to zoom in on them and see them. And there's things called acini in there. We'll talk about that as well. And then bile. Okay, a lot of people have heard of bile. Some people, hold on. Wait for it. Some people get so sick, they throw up bile. Maybe you've heard of that before. We're going to take a peek at that as well. And my favorite cooking word, emulsification. So let's go ahead and do a quick review. Just a quick review to make sure that you and I are all on the same page, okay? So, bolus is coming down my esophagus, okay? Here it comes. It moves through a process called peristalsis. It goes to the first valve, which is called my cardiac valve, which in the other videos I told you to call the lower esophageal sphincter, but you can call it whatever you want. Now it goes in the stomach. A J-shaped stomach. Fundus, body, pylorus. We have our folds in the stomach called rugae. Okay, and remember, if this is too much, go watch the last video. I think you'll be okay. The bolus, can we make the bolus yellow? Because I like the color yellow. The bolus comes in and sits on the rugae. He sends a message up to the brain saying, oh my goodness, we have food to digest. And the brain says, I will take care of it. And then a G cell releases, in the stomach by the way, releases a hormone called gastrin. Gastrin makes two cells, parietal and chief cells, go berserk. Okay, parietal cells make hydrochloric acid. We'll do that in green. So all of a sudden, now my stomach, blah 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 blah. It starts to fill with all this acid, but it only fills with acid when there's something to actually work on. So parietal cells will release aspirin in the presence of gastrin. Now chief cells are a little bit more tricky. They release a sleeping giant called pepsinogen. Remember, ogen means sleeping giant, okay? So what ends up happening is they make this sleeping giant called pepsinogen. Doesn't even work. They push it out of them, and then they slap them awake, okay? That's what they're going to do to make sure this works. So pepsinogen gets sleeping giant, gets put out in the hydrochloric acid, and then it becomes the #1 protein splitting enzyme on the planet, pepsin. So it's kind of a trick question. Who makes pepsin? Well, really, you need both of these cells, and you need the hormone gastrin. So, like, you need them all. This is why they call this guy the gastric gland. Now I've got a juice in my stomach, and the juice is called chyme. So when you guys throw up, you don't throw up a bolus. You throw up chyme. Chyme is an acidic mixture. Do you remember what pyloric meant? Remember, pyloric is the valve at the end, and he is my gatekeeper. Okay, he chooses when this food goes to the small intestine, which is what we're going to talk about now. Okay, food, sorry, chyme. So now we've got my chyme here in the stomach. It's a liquidy mixture. It's not a solid anymore. The gatekeeper, which would be right about here, lets it into the small intestine. Now, if you guys can remember this is your duodenum, I will be so happy. The duodenum is the first region of the small intestine. He's only about 1 foot. We'll explain him in the next video. But in my mind, he's actually one of the most important. Okay? The reason why he's most important is because look what happens in this 12 inches from here to here. Well, the pancreas secretes all its juices into the duodenum, first part of the small intestine. The gallbladder and the liver both secrete all their juices into the duodenum. So when I teach this, I always teach the duodenum is the most important, but there's always that kid in class who says, well, it can't absorb that much. Well, you're right, because this is only 1 foot. And the rest of my small intestine is 19 feet, okay? But I don't care the 19 feet's absorbing like crazy. That's really cool. What I care about is I care about this foot where the pancreas and the liver secrete their go-go juices. So let's do pancreas first, okay? If I could zoom in on the pancreas, okay, this is what you'd see. Now, I have bad news for you, okay? If I say, tell me about the pancreas, and please don't add an E on the end of pancreas, okay? It's just pancreas. That's why you spell it. Okay, if I say, tell me about pancreas, tell me everything you know about pancreas, most of you will be like, oh man, it secretes insulin to help with my blood sugar. That is fantastic. Okay, that is fantastic. Do you see all these cells on the inside? These are all my endocrine cells. Now, it's been a long time since we've done endocrine, so let's just remember, if I'm an endocrine cell, all I gotta do is poop out my product and get it into the bloodstream. That's what an endocrine cell is, okay? Just endocrine. So you can see that this is blood, 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 okay? We're going to talk about these endocrine cells, but we don't care about the middle, okay? We don't care about the middle here. Do you see what we're drawing though? This is an island. So this is your islet, okay? I care about the outside yellow of your island. And if you look at the outside yellow of your island, those are called acini. Acini are exocrine glands. Now, it's been a long time since we've done exocrine. Remember, an exocrine is a cell or group of cells that has to secrete their products via a pipe. So in this case, this is my intestines. This is the cells. Now I have to have a duct or a bridge to get it there. And we call that a duct. So all exocrines have a duct. This is what we're going to talk about because these are where all the digestive juices comes from. It's from these yellow acini. Now, I could be wrong on my number, but I'm pretty sure about 80% of all your pancreas is these guys. In fact, most books say 99% of the function of the pancreas is digestion. So if you said insulin, congratulations, you know 1% of the pancreas. Well done. So the main job of the pancreas, if I ever ask you any test question on the planet, what is the main job of the pancreas in the human body? Don't say insulin. I mean, that's a good answer, but his answer is digestion, 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 digestion. He secretes so many pancreatic juices into the small intestine. Okay, I'm going to do one more that I wasn't planning on doing, but it's my class. I can do whatever I want. There are really three big ones that I want to talk about that the pancreas secretes. Are you ready? Three big enzymes. Number one, lipase. Why do you think I'm starting with lipase? It's lipase. This is an enzyme for fats. The next one he secretes is one called amylase. You've learned amylase before. Amylase destroys amylose, which is sugars. Do you see what I'm doing? Okay. Another big one he secretes is one called trypsin. Now, trypsin doesn't end in ase, but it ends in in, which is another name for a protein or an enzyme. Trypsin destroys proteins. So do you guys see why I'm giving you these big three? Why is the pancreas so important? He destroys fats, he destroys sugars, and he destroys proteins. The number one function of the pancreas is freaking digestion. Okay, you cannot live without a pancreas. No pancreas, no digestion, no living, you die. We have to have our pancreas. Can we live if my pancreas doesn't secrete insulin? Yes, I can. We call that diabetes. Okay, so that's why the pancreas is so important. And remember, the pancreas secretes its go-go juices into the small intestine. So let's go back to our to-do list. The pancreatic islet is just a group of cells that are both endocrine and exocrine, right? I only care about the exocrine, which happen to be my acini. Acini secrete digestive juices, including the three big enzymes I just gave you. So now let's go ahead and do liver, okay? So now let's do the liver. So liver is almost very similar to that. This is my gigantic liver here, okay? The liver has a storage tank called your gallbladder. Talk about him in a second, but if you notice, they secrete their products right into the small intestine as well. So once again, this is a duct, so this is an exocrine function of the liver and the gallbladder, okay? So these are just digestive juices. So to get this, you have to understand what he makes. And the liver makes a product called bile, okay? Now, the liver makes bile, the liver makes bile, the liver makes bile, the liver makes bile, but the gallbladder stores it. The reason why this is important because now the gallbladder can store it. So what ends up happening is if I eat a big meal, right, generally fat is what we're going to talk about, a high-fat meal, and all of a sudden I got a ton of fat in my intestines, the gallbladder says, oh, I got this, and it can secrete bile on demand. So what happens if someone gets their gallbladder removed? Well, you can still secrete bile, but can you secrete it on demand as much as you could? No. So that's why if you get your gallbladder, you should try to limit your fat intake to make it easier on your liver to digest. So now let's figure out what bile actually does. That's what bile actually does. I know this is dumb, But if you're a cook or you like to work in the kitchen, you need to know the word emulsify. If you're going to pour in liquid, you do not want to pour liquid into the center of this. Okay, it will just create a huge pot of fat right there in the middle. So why are they whisking it? Oh, I know. It's because they're trying to take a gigantic chunk of fat droplet that's coming in, and as they whisk it, they're going to shatter it into many little droplet forms. Okay? That is a textbook definition of emulsification. Okay? Emulsification is taking a big fat and destroying it into small fats. Okay? So you guys know this, okay? So like if you guys were going to be melting butter, okay? Would you like to throw the big old cube of butter into your pan like this? Or would you like to piecemeal the butter up like this? Which one do you think would melt faster? Well, the top one would, because you emulsified it. You took it and you broke it into smaller pieces, okay? That's exactly what bile does in the small intestine. So let's go ahead and draw now fat. If this is my small intestine, oh, let me get my pen back. If this is my small intestine, I have a huge chunk of fat. Lipase from the pancreas can try to dissolve this. But you understand, he's only going to be able to dissolve the inside or the outside. He can never get to the inside. So how much is he going to actually dissolve it? Not very good. I think this is like a jawbreaker. This is why jawbreakers take forever. You only destroy the outside. So if you want to get rid of a jawbreaker, how do you do it? You do it like this. You put it in your mouth, and then you do this. And you snap it. And once you snap it, guess what you did to the jawbreaker? You took that one chunk and you broke it into many chunks. That is like emulsification. So guess what happens? My lipase from the pancreas can still destroy the outside, excuse me, like it did before, but now it can go in and destroy the inside too. So what happens is you give it more surface area to work and you will dissolve more fat. That's what bile does. Bile takes a fat. Now let's get rid of jawbreaker, right? Now let's go ahead and put the word fat in here. It takes a gigantic fat, and bile, which we'll do in green, comes in and shrapnels this chunk of fat into small pieces. That's what emulsification does. Sadly, bile solidifies every once in a while, and when bile solidifies in the gallbladder, we call it a gallstone. Now, if I backtrack, this can be kind of scary because then the gallstone can get stuck in this duct, and then all of a sudden you have no bile coming in here. Bile, surprisingly, adds color to feces, so guess what happens if you have no bile? Well, then you have colorless feces, okay? It's kind of a grayish white, pale feces. If you ever poop white feces, you are in trouble, okay? All right, so how do you guys feel about this? You okay about this? The bile emulsifies fats. It comes from the liver, stored in the gallbladder, secretes in the duodenum. The pancreas, oh my goodness, he's the digestion king. Let's give him a crown. Okay, he's a digestion king, secretes it in here. So tell me about the chyme in here. You understand the chyme is fully digested. So then what do I get to focus on for the rest of the small intestine? What's it called when I go from intestine to bloodstream? Do you guys remember what that's called? Now I get to focus on absorption, 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 and then there's one more thing. Oh yeah, absorption. That's what we're going to do. All right, guys, good job. Here's your questions. Go ahead and knock these questions out. Define bile, acini, emulsify, and islet. And then thanks for watching Burt's Basics. Here comes the answers. See you on the flip side. There you go.